The School for Whatnots, Chapter 62. Max the friend, and Josie still being a friend too. Josie, have you gone nuts? Max asked. You're giving up the chance to be rich. He wanted to add, yeah, the Whatnot Corporation has problems, but you'd be in charge. You could fix everything. But before he could say anything else, the room exploded. Not literally. It was just that confetti burst from the walls, and colorful streamers and balloons dropped from the ceiling. Trumpets and trombones shot out from the doorframe, blasting out bursts of triumphant music. Everyone froze in place, confetti and streamers in their hair and on their clothes, balloons gently bonking against their heads. And then Lola began to laugh. Oh, I see, she chortled. This was the real final test. Friendship isn't something you can buy or bribe your way into. Josie becoming Mira's friend, it wouldn't be because Mira gave Josie the Whatnot Corporation. True friends become friends because they only genuinely like each other. And now Josie has passed this test, so I really will give her everything I have. Mira finished, beaming at everyone. Even she had confetti stuck in her white hair. Josie, you have restored my faith in humanity. And, she chuckled, you should have known that if I, of all people, would make this transfer electronically. She gestured again to Lola, and Lola rolled over close to the bed again. She turned around and pulled her shawl and hair to the side. Mira reached up and touched some sort of release, and a screen and tiny keyboard unfolded around the back of Lola's neck. It was as if Lola had had a miniature laptop embedded in her body, which could spring out on some hidden tool like a Swiss Army knife. You were linked into the internet this entire time? Ashley gasped to Lola. I wasn't allowed to tell, Lola said ruefully. Josie ignored both and raced to Mira's side. And then Josie clasped Mira's hand, gently pulling it away from the screen and keyboard. I wasn't trying to give the right answer for a test, Josie said. She sat down on the hospital bed, still holding Mira's hand. I really meant what I said. I don't want the Whatnot Corporation. What? Mira asked. Her smile drooped. Her eyes swam with confusion and pain. But, would it really be that hard to be my friend? That has nothing to do with this, Josie said, gesturing at the screen. I'm 11 years old. I don't know anything about running a corporation. You've got a fifth grade education, and that's all any of us Whatnots have, and we've been running it for years, Lola protested, even though maybe we didn't run it all that well. Josie, my dad could help you, Max volunteered. My parents would probably help too, Ashley agreed. They're in technology. They'd have all sorts of ideas for you. Josie turned to look toward Lucinda and Ivy. Lucinda gulped. Josie, if you're going to say that thing about how really we all deserve to win, you don't have to, Lucinda said. I wouldn't have passed that last test. But the Whatnot Corporation made its money, Josie whispered. All those poor, lonely children like Lucinda and Ivy and me. All parents like ours who gave up years with their kids just for the hope that we could have better lives as adults. All those moments of our growing up time that our families can never get back. Max squirmed. He had never known anyone was out to hurt him. He never knew anyone was being hurt to help him. His parents had never known, but Frances Miranda Gonzaga had known, and she is really, really sorry, he thought. You could give all the money away, Mira murmured to Josie. Once again, she had tears in her eyes. You could make up for my mistakes. Josie shook her head as stubborn as Max had ever seen. No, she said even more firmly this time. You don't think it's enough to pay people back? Ivy asked, her eyes intent on Josie's. Max felt a familiar tiny stab of jealousy because Josie and Ivy were looking at each other for answers, not him. But that was fair because Ivy and Josie had had shared experiences Max couldn't understand. Not yet, anyway, but he was going to try. Max walked over to Mira's bed. He patted Mira's right hand, the one Josie wasn't clutching. I don't want to have anything to do with the Whatnot Corporation, he said. But Mira, I'll be your friend. And Josie? He peered in her direction, still seeing the girl who'd rushed to his side in kindergarten, the girl who'd been at his side for the past 6 years, his best friend. Who, was also a totally independent person who could make up her own mind about what she thought about everything. Always. And Josie, you know I'll always be your friend no matter what, he said. Good, Josie said, but I really wasn't worried about that anyway. And I know you'll do whatever's right, Max finished. Mira sighed and snuggled down into her blankets like a woman planning to disappear. Then it's settled, she whispered. Josie will take over the Whatnot Corporation and fix all my mistakes. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. All my friends. But then Josie jerked on the old woman's arm. Mira's eyes flew back open. I said no, Josie repeated. I am not going to take over the Whatnot Corporation and fix all your mistakes because you're not going to die. You're going to live and fix all your mistakes yourself. And you're going to be friends with all of us for years to come. Chapter 63. The narrator's aside. Josie was right. The end. Chapter 64. The narrator's aside. What's that? You're still here? And you still want more? Good grief, is the narrator's work never done? Okay, I'll admit there's a bit more to the story. All the kids and I finally convinced Mira that she should get checked out by a real professional medical personnel before giving up on life. It turns out it probably is not a good idea for anyone to drop out of school before 6th grade, or for anybody who's sick to rely on medical opinions from people or androids who don't know what they're talking about. Max ran to get Nurse Beverly, who was soon freed along with Max's parents, and Nurse Beverly quickly and expertly diagnosed a huge part of Mira's problem as dehydration. Water! It's good for you. That wasn't the only issue, but every problem Mira had was treatable. She had absolutely nothing fatal wrong with her. Mira ended up keeping control of the Whatnot Corporation, or maybe I should say, taking back control from all of the Model 82958s. She never reactivated them, and she certainly never reactivated the bully models, but she didn't close any of her schools. Instead, with the help of both Max's parents and Ashley's, she negotiated deals with every single set of rich parents who thought they had been paying to keep Whatnot androids around their children. Again and again, she told them, if you don't tell anyone about the Whatnot Corporation, I won't tell anyone you didn't trust your child around real children. And hey, let's all work together to keep all the kids in the schools they already love, with all the friends they cared about all along. For the first time, she got patents on her brilliant work and turned around and shared her expertise with others. That launched a million articles about the mystery genius of AI and lots of speculation about who she really was and how she'd come out of nowhere to upend the technology world. But Mira had no desire to go around talking about herself, so she just let the technology world wonder. She was much more concerned with making things right with Josie and her dad, Ivy and Lucinda's family, and the families of all the other kids who had ever pretended to be Whatnots. Mira decided to divide up all the money she'd earned from running Whatnot schools over the years, and she gave each family their share. It went to so many people that no one ended up getting a fortune. Josie and Ivy and Lucinda did not get to live in houses as big as Max's and Ashley's. They didn't get to fly around in private pilotless helicopters of their own, but they got enough to be comfortable. They got enough that they didn't have to think about money all the time, before and after every decision they made. And maybe you're also wondering, what about me? Mira fixed the broken parts of my face as soon as she had recovered enough to do so. She understood why I wouldn't want to be reminded of bullies every time I looked in a mirror, even though the Model 82958s thought it didn't matter when I was only working behind the scenes. And then I moved in with Josie and her dad. I wasn't there to take care of Josie, or rather, not exclusively. We made a pact to take care of each other. She says it's like she finally has the big sister she's always wanted, but she will grow and change, and I won't. Josie says that's fine. She's always wanted a little sister, too. But Mira was baffled that I didn't shut off with all the other Whatnots. She swore she programmed each and every one of us the same way to shut down when some child made it through the maze and answered to the Model 82958's question correctly. I should have stopped working the moment Josie said the word friend, and the door to Mira's hospital room clicked open. But I didn't. Evidently, some of my reprogramming presented that. It was Ivy and Lucinda's little brother, Casper, who had the best theory of what had happened. We were all having a picnic together, Mira, Josie, and her dad, Max and his parents, Ashley and her parents, Ivy's entire family, and of course me, while everyone tried to figure out why I hadn't stopped. It's like you were too real for that, Josie argued. Real? Ivy's brother repeated. He toddled over to his diaper bag and came back with a battered book, a copy of the Velveteen Rabbit that had belonged to his grandfather and his mother and Ivy and Lucinda before him. Like wabbit, way love makes you real. Or friendship, Max and Josie said, speaking so completely in unison that everyone else laughed. Is it because I'm friends with all of you? Or because you're friends with me? I asked, trying to keep my voice from trembling. We're all friends together, Casper announced, and everyone agreed he'd figured out the answer. It bothers Mira that she cannot quantify it scientifically, that she cannot prove it one way or another, but that doesn't mean she doubts it. Some truths can only be felt, even by an android. Epilogue. Josie and Max and their family and friends. It was the last day of summer vacation, and Max was having a party at the pool. To the casual observer, it probably looked like the same as the party he'd had on the last day of fifth grade. Same pool, same sunshine, same kids. Same shrieks of laughter as belly flops, and same cheers for elegantly executed dives. But everything was different. Nobody was keeping secrets. Nobody was wondering what food they'd have on their family dinner tables when they got home that night. Nobody was worrying about what school they'd land in next, or fearing they might disappoint their family. Everyone was just happy. At the end of the party, Max lay on his stomach across the middle of a swimming pool raft, his arms and legs dangling into the water. Josie leaped out of the water and flopped across the raft beside him. The grown-ups are arriving, she announced, watching the parents stream in through opulent gates and summon one kid after another from the pool. Ivy was still nearby, turning the dots of water splashed onto the concrete into an artistic design. But Jack, who'd also become a good friend over the course of summer, was already out of the pool and toweling off. Other kids were waving and shouting their goodbyes. Ugh, your dad'll go on talking to Mira forever, so we've still got time, Max said, tilting his head to indicate the row of beach chairs where Josie's dad and Mira were huddled together under an umbrella. Both of them alternated between peering proudly out at all the kids in the pool and nodding excitedly at one another. Mira claimed Josie's dad was the first person she'd ever met who loved building things as much as she did. When the two of them got together, it was like they had their own language that nobody else understood. No, look, you can tell Mira's getting tired, Josie said, watching the old lady carefully. My dad protects her as much as he does me now. She rolled her eyes. I give him 2 minutes before he yells, Josie, time to go. That's okay, Max said, as he needed to remind himself. You can tell them your family lives so close by now. Surely you can stay a little longer. Once Josie and her dad had gotten their share of the Whatnot Corporation money, Josie's dad had bought the house that Max had thought Josie lived in all along, the one beside the school. Max and Josie both thought that was funny and great. Over the summer, Josie's dad had turned the house into an apartment building for lots of families of former fake Whatnots, including Ivy and Lucinda's. And, Josie told Max with a reassuring shrug, we'll see each other tomorrow in school. All the parents of the kids from Max and Josie's fifth grade class had agreed to just expand the school through sixth grade and keep everyone together. The adults used words like transition year and, well, everyone adjusts. Max sometimes felt a few butterflies in his stomach, thinking about what changes he might face in seventh grade, but Josie wasn't worried. And it made thinking about the start of sixth grade really, really easy. Max ran his hand back and forth in the water, creating tiny ripples that barely rocked their raft. We really will be friends forever, right? He asked. If it's anything I can control, Josie said. At the beginning of the summer, that would have been more than enough of an answer for Max, because he knew he would always have that too. But there's something about the last day of summer that makes everything seem uncertain. It makes you feel like anything could end. And Max had learned so much that summer about himself and Josie and the rest of the world. He saw all sorts of ripples now below the surface of his peaceful life that had always been invisible to him before. Josie, it really wasn't fair to you how everything turned out, he burst out. Back in that maze, and with the test in Mira's hospital room, you won, and you didn't end up getting anything more than anyone else. Do you think I care about that? Josie asked. She watched her dad and Mira together, his thick head of dark hair bent close to her wispy white curls, his young but weathered face and her old, wrinkled one carrying matching lively expressions. She saw Max's mom bend down to admire Ivy's artwork. She saw Nurse Beverly and Lola greeting Ivy's dad. Don't you know I wanted everyone to be happy? But you could have been in charge, Max said. You could have told all the whatnots what to do, and all the rich parents who wanted to keep things secret. He looked around as the kids in the pool at the kids in the pool, the ones halfway in and halfway out, and the ones walking away arm in arm with their parents. But this way we're all still stuck as kids. We'll have to wait until we're grown-ups to decide things for ourselves, to make our own world however we want it to be. What are you talking about? Josie laughed. In the slants of sunlight coming from lower and lower in the sky, everything around them felt quicksilver and changeable. In a moment, she might decide to upend the raft and send both her and Max tumbling into the water, or she might lean her head against his shoulder and keep rocking peacefully in the waves. It was indeed her choice, just as it had been her choice to tell Max she wasn't a whatnot, just as if it had been her choice to sneak over to the school with Ivy. And just as if it had been her choice to rescue Mira and set in motion everything that led Josie being able to stay friends with Max, and to get Mira to fix the Whatnot Corporation, and to become friends with Ivy, Mira, Lola, Lucinda, Ashley, Jack, Max's parents, Ivy's parents. The list went on and on. She turned to Max, and somehow in that split second she could see him as the kindergartner he'd once been, as well as the teenager he was about to become. And the kid he was in this very moment, her friend. And he could see her as she really was, too. Max, can't you tell? She's asked. We're making our own world now. And that's the end of the story.